Hi and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Following news headlines have been reported by world major English news channels and news agencies. So please watch it.
Tonight we have breaking news as we come on the air. This remarkable scene just a short time ago. Elon Musk holding court in the Oval Office. What he said with President Trump sitting beside him. We also have more than 100 million Americans in the line of these two major winter storms now hitting tonight and tomorrow. The winter storm alerts up right now. The two separate storms moving right across the country from the Midwest right into the east. A foot of snow in some places already tonight. Treacherous driving outside Washington, D.C. In Virginia. Hundreds of accidents. And then the second storm set to hit snow and ice, freezing rain from Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia to New York. Ginger Z is right here to time all of this out tonight. Then Elon Musk holding court, speaking and taking questions for a half an hour or more in the Oval Office with the president sitting behind the Resolute desk. Musk is asked about his access to at least 15 government agencies. What he's doing, is he being transparent? Is he policing himself? Is there a conflict of interest with his own company having so many government contracts? Rachel Scott in the Oval Office asking many of the questions tonight. Also just in, the American prisoner freed tonight from Russia. The first images of American teacher Mark Fogel on a plane carrying him home. President Trump is asked what the White House offered Russia in return. The new images now emerging tonight, that deadly collision, two planes, the dramatic video showing the Learjet owned by Motley Crue's Vince Neil veering off the runway, smashing into another jet. There are reports tonight the person who died might have been the pilot. Authorities so far confirming only that it was a member of the flight crew. President Trump with the King of Jordan at his side, saying the U.S. is going to take Gaza. Having said the Palestinians would leave, he has suggested Jordan and Egypt would take in Palestinians. How King Abdullah responded. The two young American women who survived that shark attack, they had just jumped into the water in the Bahamas. What they described tonight happening moments later. We also have that major recall on canned tuna tonight, the rising cost of chocolate, and America Strong here, the 11-year-old who fell through the ice. He was saved, and he was choked up as he thanks the officer. From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir. Good evening. We begin tonight with these two.
Tonight, billionaire Elon Musk facing questions for the first time over his cost-cutting moves. The major moment with President Trump in the Oval Office defending their deep government spending cuts as battles play out in the courts. What they said about the Democratic criticism of DOGE, why Musk says the federal bureaucracy should be slashed, and the president is asked, will he follow federal judges' rulings against him? The American teacher on his way back to the U.S. after being imprisoned for 3.5 years in Russia. When we're learning about the deal, 100 million under winter weather alerts, whiteout conditions in Kentucky, the nation's capital under snow, as West Virginia gets more than a foot, and where the next round is headed. Plus, I never broke the law, and I never would. The political stunner, the backstory of why the Trump DOJ is abandoning the corruption case against New York's Democratic mayor. What's behind the shift? The battle between the American tech giants and the global face-off for the future of AI. The tuna recall impacting major retailers across the country. What you need to know. And the good news, a gallery on ice. You've heard of Burning Man? Is Minnesota's version Freezing Man.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt. Welcome
to CBS Evening News Plus. I'm John Dickerson. We're going to take it. That's President Trump's four-word plan for Gaza, as he described it during a meeting with Jordan's King Abdullah at the White House. Jordan and other Arab nations opposed Trump's plan to permanently displace 2 million Palestinians. Weisha Zhang will fill us in on the uncomfortable meeting and Trump's new threat to Hamas. In our interview, author and journalist Malcolm Gladwell revisits his bestseller, The Tipping Point, 20 years later with Revenge of the Tipping Point. He tells us how he feels about being wrong. And our in-depth focus tonight, would you let a computer drive you on the highway with all those trucks and that guy in the left lane? Our Chris Van Cleve takes a test drive with the machine driving. Those stories and more right after our news headlines. Economy is strong overall. Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, signals to Congress an interest rate cut is not likely soon and addresses the Trump administration's closing of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, saying no federal regulator remains to make sure banks aren't cheating customers. Snow and ice are falling from the Central Plains to the Northeast. Washington and Philadelphia could get up to 3 to 6 inches tonight. The Gulf Coast states their dose includes thunderstorms and damaging winds. In the West, another atmospheric river is prompting flash flood watches and concerns about mudslides in areas scarred by wildfires. And Russia released American prisoner Mark Fogel. The teacher from Pennsylvania was arrested in Moscow nearly 4 years ago for possession of medical marijuana. It's unclear what the U.S. gave up in return, but the Trump administration says the release is a sign that the U.S. and Russia are moving towards ending the war in Ukraine. The country of Jordan.
Fox News Decision Desk can now project that Texas Senator Ted Cruz will have a third term, and he has defeated Democratic Congressman, former NFL player Colin Allred. There was some movement in this race. It tightened a little bit, and there was some discussion that maybe Ted Cruz might lose his seat, but he has handled it.
You know how much money they put into that race? Yeah. Democrats poured a ton of money into that race. Colin Allred was a good candidate.
Absolutely, good debater.
Minus being in Texas, I mean, he was really a really good Democratic candidate. As you look at the balance of power, 47 to 37. Again, West Virginia has already flipped, majority at 51. We're looking at states like Ohio, the Sherrod Brown race, Montana, the John Tester race, as a possible flip in the U.S. Senate. Brooke Taylor is at the Cruz campaign headquarters in Houston. Check in with Brooke. Good evening.
Good evening. I could tell you some behind-the-scenes info right now. We have Fox News playing on both screens right now. The crowd right now goes wild because we just threw up the race, and we have Cruz again with that strong lead. So everyone here is very excited, but I could tell you from talking to the Cruz campaign that they have been taking this race extremely seriously. When you think of Texas, you think of this deep red state. A Democrat has not won an election here in 30 years, so since 1994. But again, since 2018, Democrats have really seen an opportunity to possibly switch the seat. We saw it with Beto O'Rourke. Cruz won by just 3 points, and Cruz's campaign hoping to have a real win here. They are not going to make that mistake. They are going to take this extremely seriously. But again, the crowd here go wild. They are very excited about this. I will toss it back to you guys.
Okay, Brooke Taylor, thanks so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most.
Canada's premier is making a plea in D.C. this Tuesday night. Their attempt to persuade the U.S. president tariffs will be terrible for both countries.
I'll tell you who's sitting back and laughing is China.
What might change Trump's mind, and the prime minister's warning to the American vice president. Plus, what tariffs could mean if you're looking to buy a new vehicle. Ultimatum the pressure Jordan and Egypt are facing as Trump threatens to withhold aid. Demanding justice for John Wells.
He wasn't even armed.
The push for accountability in the death of an Indigenous man after an interaction with police. And vying to be top dog, a dose of cute canines stepping out at the Westminster Dog Show. Good evening and thanks for joining. Today, 2 New South Wales nurses sacked while police investigate a video appearing to show the health workers threatening Israeli patients.
The idea that you would single out a particular group in our community and indicate you wouldn't care for them runs against every single principle in our healthcare system.
Also ahead, Rex up in the air. The government considers acquiring the regional airline if no other buyers emerge. Israel warns it will end the Gaza ceasefire if Hamas doesn't free more hostages this weekend. And Sam Kerr focusing on getting back on the soccer pitch after being cleared of racially harassing a police officer. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Rose Childs. 2 healthcare workers. Hello and a very warm welcome to you watching Daybreak here on France 24. These are the top stories this hour. Release the hostages by midday Saturday or the Israeli army will return to all-out war in Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu echoing Trump's threats. Jordan's king says his position is steadfast and that his country will not accept the removal of Palestinians from their homelands in Gaza. But he did offer to take hundreds of the injured from there for treatment. He told Trump that Egypt was working on a plan for the future of Gaza. An American schoolteacher, Mark Fogel, greeted at the White House, released from prison in Russia. He flew back with Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. Trump said the U.S. did not give much for his release, adding that it could, however, help with the war in Ukraine. Glad you could join us. Well, also coming up, France relaunches its bid to get its beaches UNESCO World Heritage status. Past attempts to award the special ranking to the D-Day landing strands in Normandy have failed as being war arenas ruled them out. But that could be about to change.
This is Asia Now.
It's 12 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 in New Delhi, and 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Ronnie Santani. At this hour, the Gaza ceasefire on the brink of collapse. Israel threatens to resume fighting if Hamas does not follow through with plans to release hostages this weekend. Hamas accuses Israel of violations and insists it is committed to the truce. Jordan's king says Arab nations will put forward a counter-proposal as President Donald Trump insists the U.S. will take control of the Gaza Strip. And the transit of 2 U.S. Navy ships reigniting tensions in the Taiwan Strait. The first such mission under the Trump administration sparks an angry response from China.
Refugee story leading the news this morning. Palestinian refugees have been granted the right to asylum in Britain.
But through the Ukraine family scheme exposing a loophole in the legal system.
Well, there are fears now that this decision could open the floodgates to any migrant in any conflict zone with any family in the UK.
King Charles is to host political leaders for a sleepover at Windsor Castle. However, after his walkabout with the PM and Angela Rayner earlier this week, we're asking, is the King getting too involved in politics?
Another headache for the Prime Minister. Labour has suspended 11 councillors over this alleged misogynistic, anti-Semitic and homophobic remarks made in this WhatsApp group over many years.
Britain's biggest retailers warn nearly 300,000 jobs could be lost over the next 3 years unless the government takes action now, as economists fear the Chancellor may have no choice but to raise taxes.
Big decisions for the Church of England. Abuse victims have hid out as the General Synod votes to delay fully independent safeguarding.
As President Trump and Elon Musk set up the new Department of Government Efficiency in order to slash spiralling costs, we're asking, should the UK do the same?
It's not draconian or radical. I think it's really just saying, let's look at each of these expenditures and say, is this actually in the best interest of the people? And if it is, it's approved. If it's not, we should think about it.
Crying out for more tourists, we'll be talking to the Blackpool MP who's seeking to relocate asylum seekers from local hotels to free up space for desperately needed visitors.
And royal commentator and friend of the show, Katie Nicholl, joins us to chat about her recent battle with liver cancer and her new campaign to raise awareness and encourage others to seek help as early as possible.
And in the sport this morning, well, Manchester City blow it late again, conceding twice in the last 4 minutes to lose to Real Madrid at the Etihad. So nearly an FA Cup Devon double as Exeter just lose out to Nottingham Forest on penalties. And in rugby, Wales coach Warren Gatland has fallen on his sword.
Hello, good morning. Another cloudy and chilly day ahead. Also some drizzle at times, but there will be some sunshine. To find out where, stay tuned and I'll be here with all the details.
A very good morning to you, whoever you're watching and listening to us on this Wednesday morning. This is TV News Breakfast and I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Ellie Costello.
Very good morning to you. It's 6 o'clock on today's show. Benjamin Netanyahu triggers countdown to save the Gaza ceasefire deal from collapse.
Back here, the Home Office forced to deny Gaza refugees will be able to use the Ukraine scheme to settle in the UK.
It's Wednesday, the 12th of February. Your headlines. Israel's Prime Minister issues an ultimatum to Hamas. The decision I passed unanimously in the Cabinet is this. If Hamas does not return our hostages by Saturday noon, the ceasefire will end. Why prisons may be overcrowded because the probation service finds it easier sending people back to jail. We'll hear from the watchdog. The FBI finds thousands of new files on the assassination of JFK as the new leader of Donald Trump's transparency unit says there may have been 2 shooters.
People voted for major government reform, and that's what people are going to get. They're going to get what they voted for.
Elon Musk denies a hostile takeover of the White House and says government could save $1 trillion. Sky News goes inside a notorious political prison in Syria where the brutality of Assad's regime is laid bare. And in sport, Nottingham Forest are through to the 5th round of the FA Cup after they beat League One side Exeter on penalties. A very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us here on Sky News.
Meeting with Jordan's king, US President Donald Trump once again made the controversial suggestion that Gaza could be emptied of all residents, controlled by America, and transformed into a tourist area. The idea could likely only work if Jordan accepts more refugees from the enclave, which the country has refused to do. Nonetheless, Trump outlined his divisive vision for Gaza as he spoke to reporters.
We're not going to buy anything. We're going to have it. We're going to keep it, and we're going to make sure that there's going to be peace, and there's not going to be any problem, and nobody's going to question it. And we're going to run it very properly, and eventually we'll have economic development at a very large scale, maybe the largest scale on that site. And we'll have lots of good things built there, including hotels and office buildings and housing and other things. And we'll make that site into what it should be. Thank you very much.
Jordan's king did not make in-depth comments on the plan, but rather insisted that the 2 nations should come up with a vision that benefits the US, Jordan, and those in Gaza.
I think we have to keep in mind that there is a plan from Egypt and the Arab countries. We're being invited by Mohammed bin Salman to discussions in Riyadh. I think the point is how do we make this work in a way that is good for everybody? Right. Obviously, we have to look at the best interests of the United States, of the people in the region, especially to my people of Jordan. And we're going to have some interesting discussions today. I think one of the things that we can do right away is take 2,000 children that are either cancer children or in a very ill state to Jordan as quickly as possible, and then wait for, I think, the Egyptians to present their plan on how we can work with the president to work on the Gaza challenges.
During the meeting, Trump also implied that the ceasefire between Hamas and Israel could be called off if Hamas doesn't release all of the remaining captives in the coming days.
Women and girls in the Central African Republic face significant challenges in accessing reproductive health care and gender-based violence services. But one centre located in Bimbo is providing essential care for these vulnerable women.
Ici, dans notre organisation, Olivier,
here, when a woman arrives at our centre, particularly if she has been physically assaulted and is suffering from injuries or wounds, we take her in and provide care.
Il y a les coups et les blessures. La femme arrive ici chez nous. Nous, on la prend.
We identify the individual and address her urgent needs. If she has visible injuries or is in pain, we focus on the health aspect by referring her to medical services. By combining education, healing and income generation, the Boeing Bimbo Safe Space stands as a beacon of hope, empowering women and girls to rewrite their narratives.
Si le financement est arrêté, ça veut dire que
if the funding is stopped, it means that our women and girls who are victims will no longer be taken care of. And if they're not taken care of, you can see the repercussions. The repercussions on the well-being of the individual, on the population, and also on the state. With additional funding, UNFPA aims to expand its reach by opening more safe spaces across the country, ensuring that women and girls feel safe and supported.
Iraqi's foreign minister declared a successful retrieval of various artifacts and textured paintings from Japan and Switzerland. During a press conference at the Iraqi National Museum in Baghdad on Tuesday, Minister Fuad Hussein spoke about the return. We begin this year with the recovery of the statue of the sun god Maran Shamash and the rare mural from the 8th century BC belonging to the Assyrian civilization. Along with several textured paintings from the Altar ancient caves in Holy Kabbalah, which was borrowed by the Japanese mission working in those caves in 1975. The antiquities, which trace back to the ancient Mesopotamia and the Assyrian civilizations, were returned to the Iraqi Foreign Ministry via Iraqi's embassies in Tokyo and Bern. The recovery of this important cultural heritage is the result of diplomatic efforts of the Foreign Ministry, and especially the legal department, the staff at the embassies of the Republic of Iraq in Tokyo and Bern, and the relevant institutions in Japan and Switzerland. Iraqi's government is gradually reclaiming its stolen heritage despite the ongoing looting of its ancient sites due to decades of conflict and instability.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shekel 5858. I am Amir Shekel. Have a good life. Bye-bye.